Are you new to digital inking and don't know where to start? Do you want to use line weight to make more visually appealing drawings and designs? Well, I cover all that and more in today's video, so keep watching. All right, so like I said, today's video is all about line weight. So I made a few little slides here to help out. So first thing, what is line weight? Line weight is the strength of the line, and just the simplest way to put it. By varying the line weight within your drawings, you can add dimension, importance, and even apply highlights and shadows. So this is very important to make a visually appealing piece. If you just use one line weight throughout a piece, it's going to look really bland. So this is a way to kind of make it look a little bit classier. And then using line weight effectively is achieved by varying the strength, heaviness, or darkness of a line. So this is achieved through the pressure that you put on whatever you're using to ink a piece. I'm, of course, today going to be doing this digitally, but these principles you can actually use on traditional artwork. Brush pens, for instance, are an awesome tool to use for inking to vary your line weight. You can even do line weight differences with pencils depending on how hard you push and the angle that you use. If you're using something that's not giving you a lot of line weight, you can kind of fake line weight by making a few different passes. You're not going to get it all in one fell swoop like I'll show you today, but you can kind of build it up through, going back over and over a line that you've done. So there's a few different ways that you can go about this. So got a few different things here already done. I want to show you. This is an image that I did with just one single line weight. So you can see it's pretty bland, not a lot going on. Everything is really dark. I went heavy with the lines just to make them stand out. You could go, lighter, but you're still going to get that same effect where everything is just one constant line weight. This really, what I call it, is the coloring book look. If you flip through old coloring books and look, you're going to see there's not a lot of change in line weight in coloring books. It's just one solid line weight used throughout. This is another way that you can kind of tell too, if people are tracing stuff, it's really apparent because the lines never change. They're very, very the same throughout the piece. So that's the one that I did. I went ahead and copied this over here. So we're actually going to go on top of this one to do today's tutorial. So I'm using Procreate for the iPad Pro with the Apple Pencil. If you're doing digitally your work, you need something with pressure sensitivity to get good line weight. You're not going to be able to achieve this using a mouse or even just a regular iPad with a stylus. There's no pressure sensitivity on there, and that's how you get the differences in line weight. So make sure if you're doing this digitally, you do have something with pressure sensitivity. Like I said, if you're doing this traditionally, just play around with some of the tools. Like I said, brush pens are an awesome thing to use. So I'm using Procreate and the Natural Inker brush. This is my favorite brush. I found it through the Procreate forums, which I put a link in the description to other videos. I'll go ahead and do that again today. So let's go ahead and get started. I've got a new layer on top of there. Now, like I said, you can actually imply shadows with this technique too. So starting out with a piece, if you want to identify where your light source is coming from. So for today's example, I'm going to have it coming down this way. So everything on this side is going to be heavier and darker to imply that. So once I go in and add colors to this, it'll be easy to tell where they go, and it'll read even more so that the light source is coming in this way, because we'll have the lines doing the work for us as well as the shadows and the highlights layer. So let's go ahead and start. Make sure I'm on the right layer. Okay. So anything down here, like underneath, this is going to be heavy. And usually with doing the line weight variances, I start out with a light pressure and then... Oops, I'm on white here. Start out with a light pressure and then gradually apply more pressure throughout the stroke. So the start of the stroke is usually light, it goes in heavier, and then goes back out to a thinner stroke. For example, here I'm going to go a little bit heavier to start out because this line's underneath the nose. So this line's going to start out kind of heavy and then I'm going to trail it off. And you'll see, to get the right looks, I've talked about this before, I do a lot of trial and error as far as getting the perfect stroke. And then this one I'm going to start out kind of light, heavy, and then light again. And I just jump around, honestly, when I'm doing stuff like this. This right here, I'll show you something they added new in the new update to Procreate is the ellipse and circle tool. Now with this, I've found if you're using the Apple Pencil and you do a line like this, it's going to give you that circle, but you see this overlap here. It's hard to not get that. You're always going to have that. Trick for that is actually use your finger. And with this, you might have to adjust the size because your finger is not going to be the same weight as the pencil, and you're not going to have that pressure sensitivity. But this, I'm going to make a solid. And then if you go to edit shape, you can actually move it around here. But as you'll see, I don't have that overlapping line there. So that makes it kind of nice. I'm going to go back in here, drop this down. And now this light's coming in here, so I'm going to make this a little bit softer of a line. Any parts that you have that overlap like this, you'll want to start out a little bit heavier and drag those down. This is something you really just have to practice at over and over again. You're going to get a pretty good feel of the pressure that you've got to use eventually, but starting out, it might be hard to train your hand to do exactly what you want it to do. Usually for these little like eyes, the lines around the eyes, I usually make those a little bit smaller. That's the other thing too, is with a line weight, you're wanting to use it to draw the eye to the, I guess, important parts, if you will. So I usually go heavier around the outside outline of a design. You want the outside to usually be thicker lines, and then the inside to be a little bit thinner. So that's something to keep in mind. This is underneath this part of the mouth coming down, so I'm going to make that a little bit heavier there. Same thing with this, and trail it off. You can see it starts out thick and goes thin. These are all going to remain fairly thick down here because the shadows, as far as being underneath the mouth. The other thing you can do too is, if you don't like the end of your line, or if it doesn't have the fall off or the sharp point on it, you can always go back in with the eraser and tighten it up a little bit. You can see once you get good at this, it goes fairly fast. I think I spend more time erasing to try to get the right line more than anything. Down here, I'm going to start thick and go thin. It's just the flick of the wrist, and then, you know, pulling up just a little bit on that pressure to give you that look. It's one thing the Apple Pencil is really good with pressure sensitivity, so so pretty much every line to give it that look. You start out, sometimes you'll start out thick, sometimes thin, but you always want the middle part to kind of do the work for you. That's where the thickness comes in. And then that taper at the end is always one of the key points too. It just gives that nice artistic flair to everything. Now this here for the ear, we've got the light coming in this way, so the underside, this backside of the ear, I'm going to make this one thicker. And then it's also going to be thicker because now we're moving on to the outlines. And then this one's going to be a little bit thinner since it's up top and it's being hit by that light. Like I said, once you go back in with the colors and start throwing down those shadows and highlights, that's going to help you too. If you know ahead of time where the thickness of everything is at on the lines, it's going to help you lay down those shadows and highlights in a more believable and realistic way. So like the eyebrows, the bottom sides, I always do those thinner. Or, I'm sorry, thicker, the bottom sides, and then the top is going to be thinner. Same thing with this one. So it's all about the pressure that you put on there. That's why this is not going to work with a mouse. So if you can invest in a cheap drawing tablet to get this effect. I've always found it harder to draw because I used to have the Wacom Intuos, and that disconnect of drawing down here while you're having to look up at the screen always got me, and that's why I'm so much more comfortable drawing actually on the image rather than having to train that hand-eye coordination that you need to use that. But if that's the only option you have, it's going to be a lot better than using a mouse. So this here, I'm going to make this underside a little bit heavier. See, sometimes I have that break in the line. I don't know if that's happens when the battery gets dead or what. I know my battery's starting to run out on my pen, so that might be why. Then you can also do these cool little things here. I'm gonna there we go. It's like a stray hair coming off. Get the other ear here, so we're going to go heavy down here. It's the inside part, and then lighter up here. All right, I'm going to boost this up here. Make another layer just to do these circles. That's maybe too thick. This is one of the things I absolutely love about the Procreate update, is having the ability to do these circles now. It saves so much time. Before, it was either using circle brushes that didn't have the same control, or was making a circle in another program and bringing it in, which was always kind of a pain. So this is such a time saver. I love it so much. Let's get this evened up here. Pretty good. I'm going to group these circles together and then erase this overlapping parts. And we'll be done. So you can see this goes pretty quick. And once you get good at it, I mean, your brain kind of does the work for you as far as telling you, okay, this line needs to be thick, this needs to be thin at this point. So it's just something you got to practice at, and it'll get easier with time. And then once I'm done with this, I'm going to pull that other layer back up of the same image without the line weight applied, so you can see the difference between the two. And it's a pretty drastic difference, and it'll definitely show you the benefits of using this technique. Oops. All right, I think this last part over here. All right, there we go. So let's go ahead and turn off the background part here. And then let's pull up this other one. There you go. So as you can see, this one's a lot more visually appealing. It looks a lot better. Everything, the same weight over here. It just looks really, really boring and technically not that good. This one over here, just you can see the dimension that it has that this one doesn't. It almost is starting to feel three-dimensional and like it's taking up real world space in this one, whereas this one it's really bland, and like I said, looks like a coloring book. So all right, hopefully you guys found this tutorial informative. All right guys, that's it for today's video. I want to thank you for watching. Let me know in the comments if this video helped or any new videos you'd like to see. As for me, I can be found online at bjdell.com, as well as on Instagram and Twitter at bjdell. So until next time, keep creating.